I'm Leanne. I'm the director here at Southgate.
I'm Daniel, and I'm the operations manager here.
I'm Alicia, and I'm the administrative manager, and I'm also a graduate of SGS.
Thanks, guys. All right, I'm going to share my screen. You've already seen the video about the background of Southgate, but now I want to dive a little bit deeper into the modes of classes and also address some of the questions that you've sent to us. So we have on campus. All of this happens kind of at the same time. You can choose to be an on-campus student. Some students moved here to Denmark and they attend classes in person, live in the classroom with the instructors. We also have students who attend online, and they join from all over, Germany and Italy and various kinds of places. And they also join us on Zoom live when the instructor begins the class. We also have a few students who study what we call asynchronously. What we do is with the Zoom, we record the classes and then we put them on a private YouTube channel for our students. So some of our students have daytime jobs, for example. So they'll come home and they'll watch the recording of the class and then they interact with the assignments. We use Google Classroom. So they interact with the assignments in an asynchronous way. They do it on their own time, for example. Attendance at Southgate is not graded in most courses, but it is expected in the practicum class and during the transmedia semester, because the transmedia semester is all about group work, because we're trying to do like a television series writing room. So everybody has to be present in order to make that happen. It's the one semester where students have to do a little extra work outside of school so that they can get together in groups and talk and write together and develop a television series. I'm not sure what this looks like on your end, a lot of numbers, but this is basically a quantification of the hours per semester. So we basically have 21 weeks in the semester. 10 are where we have actual in-person classes. We usually have 4 that are what we call reading weeks, because we have a very high quantity of primary text that you have to read. 10 books per semester, for example. We weave in these reading weeks so that students have 37 hours is a full-time work week here in Denmark. So you have 37 hours during that week to just read. So this is broken down by in-person class time, reading, writing, your author platform management, and then the totals. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor here, but okay, right here is the total of 840 hours that students are expected to commit to when they attend Southgate. These last few weeks are where you get time to finish up writing some of your assignments, or if you have supervision with an instructor, and then you turn in all of your final exam elements in the last week of the semester. I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. In addition to this 840 hours, over here on this part, these hours don't go into earning credits with our degree, but they're things that we offer. So we have clubs, we have a D&D club, we have a film club, we have a detection club called Hunt a Killer, and a few other clubs. I think, Daniel, you're going to speak about that in a little bit. We also have, for first semester students, we have a workshop called Study Skills. So Daniel teaches that, and it's 10 classes, meetings, where Daniel goes over, how do you learn Google Classroom? How do you find your schedule? How do you navigate around Aalborg? I don't know, do you want to speak to that real quick?
Yeah. What I found that most students really appreciate about study skills is that each session starts with us doing like what I call a mental check-in. Starting a new degree can be stressful, confusing. What am I doing here? How am I doing what I'm doing here? And like these weekly sessions are where I'm like I put the brake all the way, the pedal to the metal, like stop. It's fine. We're doing fine. We have plenty of time, and we just like take a turn around the room. Like, how are you doing personally, if you want to share? How are you doing academically, if you want to share? And manage expectations, because when you start a new degree at any new school, you don't really know what is to be expected, and that's what I'm gonna try to do with you week by week. Like, stop and let's see where we're actually going. What are the goals for the upcoming week? What have you done the last week? Like trying to ease your way into studying here. That usually takes the first 15 minutes of my 2 hours, and it's those 15 minutes that I'm getting the best feedback from my students. They want more of the mental check-in, um, and less of me talking about like moving here. But yeah, it's I found that it seems to calm the new students, and it is always heavily requested when we ask, do you recommend us teaching it again? They're like, yes, this is probably the best non-academic class you're doing. Yeah, and I greatly enjoy getting some time with the new students and like easing the way in here.
Thank you. So then we also have different workshops, and those change semester to semester. But for example, we've had workshops on poetry, writing short scripts, anything that the students ask us for in addition to the curriculum. We will try to actually find a professional in that field and come in and teach us either a workshop or a master class, which is the next column here. We also have master classes. So for example, in the mystery and crime semester, we had a Danish FBI person come, and he talked to us about digital forensics, and then gave us this scenario where we had to apply what we learned. We also had someone come teach about video game narrative and how he teaches that to programmers and developers. So what do writers need to know about writing video games? So we try to get people in to talk to us about things that our students are really interested in. If you were to attend everything, which is maybe impossible, but if you did, it would come to about 964 hours within 21 weeks. Okay. Move on to the next one. So we have 3 types of exams. Yeah, a question that popped up was about, do I need to travel to Aalborg to take exams? And the answer is no, you don't have to come here to take exams. If you're studying remotely, you can either do presentations live, or you will upload your assignments to the Google Classroom. So we have 3 kinds of exams: portfolio-based, which is where some assignments are due at the end of the semester. Then we have weekly-based assignments. Some of our courses ask students to turn in weekly homework assignments, and those assignments are then graded by the teacher, and then they go into the exam portfolio. And then we have a few that are oral presentations. So for example, in the genre class, every genre class, one student will present one of the primary texts. You know, who's the author? When was it published? What are the cool things about this text that we need to know? And then have like a discussion about it. And then the last oral exam, which by the way, if I had to do oral exams through my educations, like I don't think I would have survived. So we try to keep them really on the low end. For students who are like mortified about the idea of having to present a text in genre, they have the option of writing an academic paper about it instead. But in the transmedia semester, we also do pitches for transmedia projects. So that's a group pitch and a group oral presentation. And then we also have externally graded exams, none in the first year, but when you get into your third, fourth, fifth, and sixth semester, yeah, the rest, seventh and eighth semesters, we have an external examiners board. And so there are two classes in each semester that an external examiner will grade alongside your instructor. And that just makes sure that ensures that the grades are fair and balanced and that the quality is high. Okay, and then moving on to where Southgate is headed, we are starting to look into and rolling out a curriculum, sort of a specialty track that we would maybe call interactive digital storytelling, but this is going to be about podcasting, YouTubing, writing for and with AI, but also script writing in general, but script writing for animation, video games, virtual reality, augmented reality, and television. This would be something specialized that students could opt in for or opt out of. And that'll probably start in the next 2 years. All right. Now I'm going to move on to some of the FAQs that we got, and we got a lot of them. So I'm going to go through some of those and hopefully I will answer all of the questions. And if not, again, you can type in the chat and Daniel can also moderate any questions there. You can type anonymously in the chat as well. Okay, so I'll go over the application, the accreditation, tuition and finances, and then student life and Aalborg. Okay, let's say you are ready to apply. So what you want to do is head on over to our website to the apply page. Now, ahead of time, you want to make sure that you gather up all of these documents. You want to have a resume or CV, a personal statement, a writing sample, your transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation, and a passport photo. In the spring of 2025, Southgate will also be requiring that applicants submit a language proficiency test, either a TOEFL or an IELTS. Now, your resume, this is going to describe your education, your work experience, and maybe you have some publications or other awards. Your personal statement is really specifying your motivation for applying to Southgate, along with projects that you would like to develop and your writing goals and expectations of our program. Your writing sample, pick what represents you as an artist in the best way. So this can include short stories, chapters, poems, book proposals, scripts. It can even include illustrations. Your transcripts should be from your upper secondary or high school and or above. If you don't have your high school diploma yet, then you can send us the transcripts for your previous year. You want to have 2 letters of recommendation, at least one from an academic reference, and the other one can be from somebody who knows your creative writing interest. All right, the deadlines for application for the fall semester of 2025, which is children's literature, The deadline is March 1st if you want to get the early bird discount. So if you apply by March 1st and pay your deposit by the end of March, you get 15% off your first year's tuition. And the same goes for April. If you apply in the beginning of April and you're accepted and you pay your deposit by the end of April, you will get a 10% discount on your first year tuition. We keep the application season open until the end of June, and at that time, if we have a couple more seats available, we will extend our application season until August 15th. Okay, if you're applying earlier than next fall, if you're applying for the spring semester 2025, which is on narrative complexity, the deadline is November 1st, and the semester introduction will be on January 20th, orientation for new students on January 21st. Then we have a reading week, January 20th through the 24th, and then classes start the week after that on January 27th. So once you apply and you get your acceptance letter, there will be a lot of information in that letter, including information about paying your tuition. You will receive an invoice for a deposit of 1,000 euros. This deposit is applied to the final semester of your 4 years at Southgate and is otherwise non-refundable. When a student accepts a seat in our program, they're agreeing to pay 1 year's tuition because we have a limited number of seats. Your first tuition payment is sent out in June and is paid on July 1st. And there are 2 options for payments. You can either pay semesterly, or if you choose to pay annually, you'll get a 5% discount. This is not in addition to the early bird discount, but we always, if you have 2 discounts that can apply, we always choose the higher discount so that you get the largest benefit from lowering your tuition payments. In terms of financial assistance, Southgate is still currently in the process of applying to the Ministry of Culture for what we call ESU. And when we hear back about that, we will let everybody know. This process can take up to 18 months. Most EU countries also offer student tuition assistance, so make sure that you look into your own country of origin and see if they offer any kind of financial assistance for students. Non-EU students can apply for a student visa. This is a new development at Southgate because we have been accredited. So now when you're accepted, you can start the ST1 application and Southgate will fill out the school's portion of that application. In the end, it's up to the Ministry of Education to approve or reject student applications, but you're eligible to apply now that we're accredited. All right, are you ready to apply? Click the apply button, and it's going to take you to a form where you're going to upload all of your materials. So in order to do that, you will need a Google email account. You can also upload any awards or any other ancillary materials within this form. What's the process? What's the duration? Basically, after we receive your application, we send it to the admissions board, which consists of 3 to 4 people. Some of them are external to Southgate and some are internal. This takes about 2 weeks. It can take up to 3 weeks. And you will receive an email with the decision. And in that email, if you are accepted, it gives all of the next steps for you to follow. Okay, one question we get is if Southgate is accredited, and the answer is yes. We actually have 2 accreditations. So the first accreditation is from the Danish Accreditation Institute, and they have assessed our curriculum as a bachelor's. And here you see in Danish their results. What does that mean? It means that according to the European qualification framework, that Southgate is assessed as a level 6 or bachelor's level institution. And if you go to the European qualification framework website, you can actually put in Denmark and then compare it to other EU countries. It'll show you how the different levels align with one another. So in this slide, you can see that level 6 bachelor's degree is equal to a level 6 bachelor's degree in the Netherlands, for example. The other question we get is, if you graduate from Southgate, can you go on to get a master's degree? And the answer is yes, as long as the school accepts degrees from an institution that has been level assessed and fits into the European qualification framework. The other accreditation that we have is from EVA, which is Denmark's Evaluation Institute. And this accreditation is the one that allows non-EU students to apply for the student visas. In terms of master's degrees, we have 2 alumni right now. One has graduated from the University of Dundee with her master's degree. That's Maria up there on the top. And we also have Trina, who is currently attending Western Colorado University, and she's also getting a master's degree in popular fiction. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about student life. I'm going to talk about, what is Aalborg like? How safe is it there? What is student life like? Does SGS provide student accommodation? What is the cost of living? And do I need to learn Danish? That's a good one. So I'm going to go through that. And Daniel is from this area of Denmark, so I'll talk a little bit, but Daniel's going to jump in here as well. Aalborg is a city that's in the region of Denmark called Jutland, Northern Jutland. And we have this revitalized waterfront on the fjord. It's called the Limfjord. And this body of water kind of cuts through the entire top of the country. The population here is about 250,000 people. So it's a small city, I guess you could say. What about safety? Daniel, do you want to chime in on this? I have this slide here that I found, but it's very safe here.
Like, once you get to know me, you'll know that I'm a numbers guy. So when I saw tap water, I had to do my quick research, and I found out that we actually, Denmark has the like number 15 in the world when it comes to tap water. I thought that was a that was a weird trophy to claim. Denmark, and in particular Aalborg, is, from what I gather, relatively like very safe compared to other places in the world. It is to the level where when we hear about anything not safe, it's like a huge shock. Any incident with a knife gets reported heavily throughout the entire country. Oh, there was a person who showed a knife on a street, and it gets reported for days and days because it's such an upset to the population here. We're just not used to like experiencing these incidents. As Leanne said, I've grown up here, so I've when I was a bit younger, I also partook in the nightlife. Spent quite many nights going like clubbing, and never ever experienced anything. Like, I never felt unsafe despite having like a crowded street of pubs everywhere, so hundreds and hundreds of people in very little space, but never felt unsafe in that environment. Maybe that's because that Aalborg is what's in Denmark called like a university city. We have a picture here of the UCN and AAU, which is two of the larger educational institutes here in Aalborg. and more than 6,500 students begin their studies every year in Aalborg. So you are one amongst many in a city that is practiced in welcoming new students, which also means that the student life here is quite good. Liane has listed the student house here on this presentation, and I'm not even sure, it's 5 minutes from our school. And they have a really good low-cost bar with excellent hot chocolates. It's also a concert venue. They have a lot of rooms that you can do project works in. And it's just a really cozy atmosphere. It's also a place where I find that a lot of international students go to volunteer, to stand behind the bar or to help with concerts and venues. And I haven't done it myself, but I've heard that that the staff parties that they have, which are closed off to anyone not working there, that they're excellent and they're taken well care of. So I think it's an excellent way to greet people outside of SGS. They also have like a weekly international nights. It used to be on Wednesday. I'm not sure if they actually moved it, but where the idea is that, oh, if you're not Danish, please come in, like make connections. You might find someone from your own country or someone that speaks your language, if that's something that you've been dying to hear, amidst all the rather rough sounding Danish. You might need a bit of your own native language. I think that's it what I have for the student life. Oh, excellent. Perfect. I have something for this slide too.
Yeah.
If you are looking to moving here, as I said, it's a city that a lot of people go to study. So that means that the affordable housing, there's a bit of competition for that. So the moment that you are interested, or like actually considering it, I suggest going on the websites that allow you to go on waiting lists. The cool thing here is that the waiting list that provides the cheapest apartments for student housing is also free of charge to sign up for. So if you are considering starting this fall, I would recommend like getting on the list today, well, tomorrow when the email goes out. If you're looking at starting next year, you can't yet go sign up for it. It needs to be less than a year before that your degree starts. Should this be of interest, then you will need a proof of study or an intent of study. And if that's the case, then reach out and we will help you in any way we can. Bob, I think that's what, oh yeah, there is a form. It's in English and in Danish. If you need help, like reach out and you will jump on a Zoom call with me and I'll fill out the form with you. It's part of what I do here. I dance through the Danish with new students and co-workers alike occasionally.
There's this wonderful website called Numbeo. And if you go to numbeo.com, you can type in any city globally, and it gives you an overview of the cost of living. So I recommend that you go to this website and look at the cost of rentals, bicycles, bus passes, public transportation, the cost of milk, a lot of things on here. You can even do like a cost analysis, like a comparison between, for example, Aalborg and Copenhagen or another city as well, and see the differences and the range in cost. Denmark is known to be kind of an expensive country. And I think that's because we have 25% sales tax put on things. But it all goes into the social welfare system, of which what we were talking about, that SU would be part of. So we're a social democracy here. And so there's higher taxes that go into healthcare and education and childcare, care for the elderly, and so on and so forth. But this is a really good website to check out just to get a sense of it. Do you need to learn Danish? It's cool for you to learn a few words, absolutely. But Danish is, it's kind of easy to learn how to read it, but it's a completely other language, learning how to pronounce it. There's even like a YouTube song or video that came out that was like, we have 3 extra letters in our alphabet, the A, E, U. So it's kind of interesting. No, you do not have to learn Danish. Everybody here speaks English. 95% of the population speaks English, and you'll get by just fine if you can speak English here. Daniel, do you have anything to add there?
Well, if you move here, then you'll probably run into the problem that like your rental contract will be in Danish. You'll probably receive some Danish letters, which is why I have a job, amongst other reasons. Like if you do get any Danish communication, like send it my way, and I can give you the summary of it, or I can like walk you through every intricate part of it. Um, but no, like, as Leanne said, like if you have a doctor's appointment here, they speak English perfectly fine. Like if you go to a restaurant, the waiter understands everything. I think everyone from my generation and down speaks English, and yeah, I just would love the chance to actually go practice the English too. So if you come and speak to them, they'll be like, yes, I'm ready to talk some English. I've been waiting for this day for 5 years. Um, but no, you do not need to learn Danish. If you want, I'm happy to like go through the EUO with you. But it can be torture on your ear and on your tongue until you learn how to pronounce them.
Yeah. So in conclusion, we're an inclusive school. We would love to hear from you if you have any questions about applying. And don't be afraid to send us an email. We're super happy to hear from you and happy to answer any questions that pop up as you consider applying to Southgate.
We have a hand up. Gwen, if I can have you type it out in the Q&A. At the bottom, you can type Q&A and you should be able to type out a question.
I see another question here about some of our alumni, so I'll just talk about that real quick as well. Yeah, we have a lot of alumni who have gone down very different paths. So one of our alumni came to us partially blind, and when she graduated with a 3-book deal with a publishing house, and I think, what is she on now, Alicia? Her 5th?
Number 5. I think, well, no, she finished number 5. She's writing number 6 right now. So she's on a roll.
Okay. And who else? Maria also has an agent and published her book, right?
Yeah, she published her book in November. So yeah, she got a Scottish publisher. That's right. Yeah.
Her book is called Saving Hell. What other I mean, all of our alumni are special, yourself included.
Well, let's see. Jesper has poetry collections out there, so that's very cool. We have a lot of alumni that are like working on really big projects right now. So like Joanna right now is filming a lot of content for her YouTube channel, and she graduated just last year, so she's doing a lot of film work. Her short film won several awards, so that's very exciting. She had an article that was published in an academic journal, so that's very cool too, about monsters, which is always fun.
Yeah. And Jesper just qualified for the Danish National Poetry Slam competition.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool. That just happened.
Pauline is running, but it's amazing. She goes on these huge kind of like running treks, and she's gotten sponsors from Cliff Bar and McKinley and like all those big companies. So she's been using a lot of SGS business know-how. So that's very exciting. She's working on a podcast.
We got the question in from Gwen asking what exactly is UCN? It's an abbreviation of University College North Jutland, which is essentially a trade school. So they teach a lot, but not creative writing. A bit more like carpentry and everything in that direction.
They have a lot of students. So there's between Aalborg University and UCN, it makes Aalborg, a college city, basically. So there are a lot of young people here with a lot of student events happening, concerts, and there,
Yeah.
there's a lot to do actually around Aalborg as well. So they same thing that on that slide with Aalborg University and UCN. There's also an organization called iLife, which I think is sponsored by Aalborg University, or maybe it's student led. I'm not sure. But they organize, for example, field trips, to the Viking burial site, or up north of here where the North Sea and the Baltic Sea smashed together up north in a place called Skane, which the rest of us pronounce Skagen, but it's actually pronounced Skane. And so they'll organize these trips to Copenhagen or to other cities around Denmark. So, our students can hook up with their students and then take these trips together. UCN also teaches like teacher training and nursing, right? And
if you were to become a teacher at an elementary school, you would go to UCN. If you would become like a teacher in kindergarten, also you'd go to UCN. It's very broad what they can do for you, definitely. But yeah, there is like you got my mind going with what you can do. Like in the summer, there is I think it's called Jam in the Park, where by the art museum on their lawn outside, like free of charge, they hire musicians to come and perform. It could be DJs. And then a lot of people just congregate there, bring their own drinks, a blanket, and then sit and I think it's called Chill in the Park because you can go and chill in the park. And it's a very like you join if you want, and it goes on for 6-7 hours, and you leave when you don't want to be there anymore. And it's usually a really good time and a beautiful place right next to the art museum, which is right next to the bus terminal, so easy to get to and from.
Public transportation here, a couple of people asked about that. It's amazing. We get like a bus card, and you can use it for the buses and the trains, and you just swipe in and swipe out, and it's super easy. You can set it up to sort of refill, like once you get low on your amount, it'll just refill if you want it to. It's not that expensive if you also want to just pay cash. And it's just clean and safe. I've lived all over the world, and I don't think I've seen, no, there are a couple countries elsewhere who have just as similarly very like clean, safe public transportation. I wouldn't have taken public transportation in Los Angeles, for example, but it's really good here. The schedules are great. They can get you to and from where you need to go on time. We rarely they're late. They're usually really good sticking to their schedules and stuff like that.
And the closest bus stop from here is 2 minutes away, like 2 minute walk, and you're on a bus.
Yeah.
No, it is really great, actually. Just like being able to scan in instead of having to like fumble out coins or anything. Like, it's like a big benefit about Denmark that just there's a lot of ease when it comes to that like stuff no one likes, like getting a bus card, like paying your bills, getting like a Danish card, like everything is made in like a really simple and easy way, especially if you're not from the country. So, no, definitely.
I should jump in there and say, like, there's one huge difference between, for example, Denmark and Germany. Germany is like a cash country. And Steen and I always forget to bring cash with us. But in Denmark, we're really leaning towards a cashless country. So people use their cards, Apple Pay, whatever, but like we rarely carry cash. Maybe that's why we have such low crime. I don't know. It's windy here and cold. So just to answer that question, bring a coat, especially if you're coming from a warm country, you'll need it. I think one of the big things that I had to learn when I moved here was that it's really cloudy, so it's important to take your vitamins, especially vitamin D here in Denmark. So that was another thing that just popped up. Another question that just popped up that's apropos the seminar and genre class is about like how do those work together? And so off the top of my head, an example would be for the mystery and crime semester. I just taught that last semester, so it's like fresh in my head. So we were studying, I think it was week 2, we were studying what's called the Newgate novel, and week 3 is called sensation fiction. So these were 2 subgenres within mystery and crime. So the students in the seminar class learned about what the Newgate calendar was, which was like basically a calendar of executing prisoners in a prison called Newgate in London. So they learn about what that style of writing was like and how that actually evolved into sensation fiction. So while they're reading that and studying that in the seminar class, the genre for that week is the novel The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. And there's also Netflix, I think it was Netflix, who also filmed it as a series. Is that right? Or a film? I think it was a series. Okay. Anyway, so you would read that book and you would read an academic article about the Newgate novel and sensation fiction. This is like in the 1830s to 1860s. And you would take the academic article and then you would sort of use that to study this primary text, Wilkie Collins' book, The Woman in White. I hope that helps. Yeah. We also, so with the reading lists, what we do is we basically start from usually the mid 1700s. I think the earliest book that we read is from 1740 in the romance semester. It's called Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. Yes, Daniel?
You do Aesop's fables.
I what?
You do Aesop's fables. That is the earliest.
You're absolutely right. That is the earliest. Yeah. Very easy reading too, and yet very complex.
That one's good.
Generally, we start around the mid 17 or late 1700s. Sometimes we'll begin in the very early 1800s, but then we read primary text through 1900s and into modern versions of that genre. Yeah. I don't see any other questions. Do you? Anything come up on your end?
I have one. My writing sample contains swear words. Should I edit them out?
No,
Um,
no, you
no.
don't have to edit them out. Absolutely not. You're an artist and you have free speech and you are definitely allowed to use swear words. I think once you're ready to publish it, we will talk about it because, for example, if you want to submit for publication in the US, there's a much different culture around swearing than the UK, definitely a different culture in Denmark as well. A quick aside, I just recently spoke to a Danish author who won the 2023 Young Adult Fiction Prize. And she had written this, her first book was called Province Piss, which how would you, I don't know how you would interpret that. Town shit?
No, no, piss.
Town piss.
Like it is essentially just the same word. Like in English it's just one more S. But yeah, small town piss. Well, I guess if you're translating it, it's small town shit.
Yeah. It was translated into English and they changed the title to Fuck This Town. The problem is then they tried to sell it in the US under that name, and the US is very against the F-bomb, right? So we were kind of laughing about it, like maybe if she would have used a different word, like it would have sold more copies in that country, right? So it kind of just depends, your audience, your agent, the country you're publishing within, but you don't have to remove swear words on our behalf here at Southgate. You know, if it's motivated, if the character swears a lot, if the tone that you're writing in is one that requires swearing, then have at it. We we had a student once who, yeah, I felt like he wanted to turn something in that he was really enjoying writing. And was unsure how the teachers here would take it. And that's because it was kind of like Adult Swim comics, you know, so there was like drug use and a lot of like marijuana smoking and stuff like that. But you know what? We took it seriously because there's an audience for that. That's a genre of writing. And so one of the things here at Southgate that we actively and consciously talk about as teachers is that we are not trying to get our students to write what we want to read. We are trying to figure out what our students want to write, and then we're trying to help them get there. I guess, Alicia, you could speak to that a little bit. Not that you swear in Alicia writes middle grade. I guess
I write middle grade.
Maybe I should have said that, like, to the person who asked the question about having swear words. Yeah, is it young? Is it like children's literature or middle grade? Then I might say take the swearing out.
Yeah, if it's picture books, it's going to be a tough sell. But yeah, no, I do have one book because I do write crime too, which is ironic given I usually write middle grade. And in that book, I have a character who is constantly swearing. So yeah, I think it depends on the character, you know. Some people swear a lot. That's just the way the world works. And I think that's totally fine. But yeah, I think the nice thing about SGS is that like you can write like the weirdest thing in the world and it's just so redeeming to have people take it seriously. Like outside of writing, I did a lot of art, and sometimes you would, you know, actually draw or paint something that was maybe a little quirky, a little weird, and it would be kind of like, why are you doing this when we can do something that's like a lot more like artsy arts? So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, sometimes in regards to the question about the sample that has the swear words, sometimes the teachers are like, don't you think there should be more? You know, like, can you make this even weirder? Can you make it more?
Yeah, it's like you're holding yourself back, or it's like this is like a perfect moment for so and so to actually swear again. So I would say, like, at the end of the day, like, stay true to yourself. Like, it's your writing sample, and like the application process, it's like, of course you want it to be the best it can be, but you don't want to like diminish yourself. Like you're putting yourself out there. So I'd say like trust your gut, because your gut is usually right.
Good questions. And Alicia, you kind of write the whole gamut, like, well, not picture books, but children's lit, middle grade, young
Not
adult,
yet.
You've got epic fantasy, you've got a dog character in another series, you've got the serial killer. Yeah, Alicia's really good at writing monsters. Which,
Monsters are a lot of fun.
yeah.
That's all I can say. But yeah, I think like one thing I definitely, when I first came to Southgate, I had like I would say like a very specific idea in that I would like only write for adult. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write for adult because you know that's cool and it's great and stuff. But like I think the nice thing I learned is that like SGS kind of makes you try all these different genres and stuff. And I think it's wonderful because it's like you kind of get to have like you get to be like a jack of all trades, which I love. And now I see it as kind of my conquest to try every genre, which is fun. But I think it's great because like every story has different elements from different genres, like Pirates of the Caribbean still has romance in it, so you should know how to write romance. Most stories have some sort of adventure, so it's great to know that. And I'm forever thankful that like I found middle grade fantasy through Southgate, because otherwise I would have been like only epic fantasy, because that's where my standard is. But like middle grade fantasy, it's so much fun. You get to be a kid again. You get to break all the rules of other fantasy. So I think it's really wonderful.
It's interesting that you say that because, so from my experience here at Southgate, usually students come in the fall and they're very adamant about what they want to write. I'm a science fiction writer. I'm a horror writer. I'm a romance writer. And the way that our curriculum is set up is that each of these genres speak to each other, overlap with each other. You'll find romance in the science fiction and fantasy semester and in the Gothic semester, and you'll find Gothic in the romance semester, and all the stuff that you can't find, you're going to find in the narrative complexity semester. Everything overlaps, and students who come in saying they want to do this one thing, usually there's this amazing catharsis isn't the right word, epiphany, some kind of like unfolding where at the end of the first year or the very beginning of the second year, all of a sudden these same students are writing something completely different that they didn't think that they would, but it's because they've been exposed to it and they find that they actually have like a very deep love and passion and talent for it. And that's been really interesting, like watching students discover that they have a talent for something that they didn't realize that they had. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least as Alicia said, they begin like they might still be stuck is not the right word. They might still be clinging to like I write sci-fi, but then start weaving in like a bit, well, I guess a bit of romance is good. Like they have some, oh, the Gothic does something really cool here. So how can I put in the Gothic in a sci-fi setting, which I think is the most interesting, like when we have that merger of two settings that sort of work,
Yeah.
or at least where like you're sort of challenging the reader to understand like the Gothic and the sci-fi at the same time. That's excellent.
Yeah, I like how in a way it really prepares you for the outside world, because like eventually like all published authors, they're going to get like a publisher who's like, we want a book like this or something, so that you know how to write different genres. It does prepare you. And even like you decide to go into film, they're going to be like, we want a romantic comedy, and then you're going to be like, yeah, I know how to do that, instead of kind of panicking and be like, oh my God, I have no idea what to do. So it definitely is nice in a lot of different areas.
It's interesting with Dita, who I was just talking about, who wrote Province Peace. This was like a best-selling book in Denmark, and then a production company came to her and asked her to turn it into a 10-episode series, TV series. She had no idea how to write television scripts, and I was like, oh, you should have come to our school. But she learned fast, and then it turned into from a 10 episode to an 8 episode. So she had to rearrange the entire story paradigm. which I thought was super interesting. And then I also, actually today, I talked to another Danish author who was approached by Mofibo, which is like audiobooks. And they asked her to produce a series, like it's a 3-season narrative, and she's writing the first season now. And it's basically these 15-minute audio narratives, like specifically for Mofibo only. But when she's done writing them, they're putting them all together into a book, and they have a publisher lined up so that when she's done recording the audio narrative, they're going to turn it into a printed trilogy. You know, that's something that the students are learning. They take a really old short story from the 1800s, and they have to read that, and then they have to update it and turn it into this 3-episode television like mini series. And what's it like being in a writer's room? Who's the showrunner? Who makes the decisions? What's it like to write collaboratively, and what happens if you don't agree with it? Alicia, you were a showrunner in your class for transmedia.
Yeah, it was definitely like a really interesting experience because like I had always kind of dreamed of like writing movies and stuff. And I learned through that experience that like on one hand, I really enjoyed being the showrunner because I got to call the shots, but I also realized this is a lot of work. Oh my God. It was really rewarding to kind of like push people and have them like produce the best writing they could and kind of figure out how we're going to collaborate. It was also COVID, so I'm like really proud of our team for like being in all different locations, and we're all like trying to write and check for continuity. And I think in the end we turned out like a really good product. But it definitely is like it was such a nice experience because I feel like throughout it I kind of learned like 2 different things. Like one, I could always like choose whatever, like let's say a novel that I wrote, I know that I would be able to turn it into like a script, and that I would be able to like collaborate with people and make sure like the story remains the same and but still changes because everything changes once it becomes a script. But I also learned that book writing is kind of my thing. You know, I do all my stuff. I don't have to worry about other people, which is kind of nice. I'm in my little world. But, you know, I think sometimes it like people forget that like, okay, you're a writer, but it doesn't mean that you work by yourself. Like you have beta readers, you have editors, you have publishers, agents, like people who are going to like ask you things and they're going to be like, change this, change that. So that it really prepared me, I think, for just like being ready to like adapt. Like, okay, you have to change this. Like, how are we going to do that? And in a way that actually makes you think outside the box. And you end up with sometimes like better ideas because you're like, okay, we can't do that. So we have to think about something that hasn't been done before. So yeah, being a showrunner is cool. I do it again maybe one day down the line.
We had a masterclass from a scholar who studies Scandinavian television and film. And one of the things he reported to us was that within Denmark anyway, that the Danish television production companies were like desperate for writers in the writer's room. That a lot of students were coming out of like, for example, film school or something like that, wanting to be the director, the showrunner, but they actually needed writers to sit in the writer's room and help develop episodes for their series. And that was really interesting that there are jobs available if you're willing to collaborate. And that's also why we have the D&D club. I know we joke about it. Oh, it's the D&D club, but D&D is like the essence of collaborative storytelling, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's the whole. It's necessary to make it work. We have one person who's of course in charge of like the showrunner of like keeping the adventure on track, but then everyone else is supposed to like pitch in. Oh, how about we do this and that? Oh yeah, that's great. Then I could do that. And that's perfect. I'll go in and jump this. And then the showrunner throws in like a wrench. But this happens. Now what do you do? Okay, adapt, change, panic. It's fun and entertaining, and like that's the whole goal. So I'm very pleased that we got a D&D club up and running, and we can make it still like a learning process, and where we start like taking our first baby steps into this idea of a writer's room and collaborative storytelling, and have a ton of fun at the same time.
It's cool to have that much fun, like when you're dealing with storytelling and narrative. I mean, that's really cool. I think that's for me anyway, part of like maintaining that level of creativity. You have to be having fun. You have to also not be too anxious, so it's important to Southgate anyway that we try to keep the anxiety levels down a little bit, as much as we can, and try to infuse fun, and curiosity into the things that we're learning, teaching, and stuff. Yeah, I think we're through all of the questions, so I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But to everybody who has joined us, thank you so much. It's been literally our pleasure, and we look forward to reading your applications. Again, if you need to get in touch with us, you can write to us info at southgateschool.dk. Some of you are already writing to me personally, so you can keep doing that, of course. But we really appreciate everybody who showed up today. And thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Alicia, for joining me today. And wish everyone a good evening. Take care.
Bye.